Hi, I'm Dr. Marianne Cintron, founder of Step by Step Dyslexia Solutions. We're a 501c3 nonprofit charitable organization. And the reason I do these videos is I address to the audience of dyslexic adults or parents of dyslexic children. So naturally, I love to have on my show dyslexic adults or parents of dyslexic children, because we want you to know you're not alone in your journey, and we want to empower you with some tools that might help your journey be a little bit easier. Just know that you're not alone. And today I have a very special guest. Her name is Lisa Fischer, and she has the show Lisa Fischer Says. She's considered the Oprah of Arkansas, and she's a delightful young gal. Learning about her, she was a little wiggly person in high school and got her detentions and got in trouble. She won the award of the most talkative student, which I think is a riot that the talent she had in school wasn't recognized as a talent. As a teacher, I know we want to quiet those kids down, but as an adult, God had a future for her to be a radio hostess. So let me introduce you to Lisa Fischer. Hi, Lisa. Welcome.
That was great. That was great. That's right. That Most Talkative award was only used the year I was a senior in high school, and they retired it after that because they really couldn't find anyone else to fulfill the obligation and the weight of being most talkative from that high school. So it has described my career very well.
Isn't that something? One of my very good high school friends, who was the best cheerleader and could do flips off the diving board and just was very talented in the arts, can play music and instruments. And I'm sure she got in trouble a lot for talking, but she's just such a personable person with dyslexia as well. So, I like to unlock the genius of the dyslexic child and let people see that the brilliance is there. We have to build those kids' self-esteem so that we can unlock their brilliant minds. But let's tell the people a little bit about you before we start talking about what you did to help your daughter.
Okay, I'm a longtime TV and radio broadcaster and a journalist. I've always asked a lot of questions. That's kind of the code of journalism, is to be inquisitive. Of course, it has annoyed every teacher, every group I've been in, every meeting I've been to, because I always had a question. Because I'm a constant student. In fact, right now I'm a health coaching student at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, because even at my age, I'm still learning. But I now know that I have some learning difficulties. I didn't really have a true diagnosis because I think we've come such a long way. But in my career, as I've been on TV and radio since the 80s, I was always better if I didn't have to read the teleprompter. If you would just tell me what you want me to tell the audience, well, I didn't know that probably fell under an umbrella of a learning. I don't know if the word's disability. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter what the label is. I worked around it. So God did gift me with this loquacious mouth and the ability to communicate. So if you tell me, I can get it to the people. And that's why I've loved radio for so long. TV, I would just go, oh, don't make me say those words. Part of it is my brain, my eyes have trouble tracking. A teleprompter moves fast and I can't use my finger. If I remember, I homeschooled my children, and I would take my finger underneath. And I remember my son, who's now an engineer, like he was 7 or 8, he'd go, you don't have to do that for me. I go, no, I'm doing it for me. But he knew that, when they're young, you follow the word, act, bat. Well, I said, I do it for me. So I probably have something under that umbrella that probably relates to tracking and my eyes staying focused. I am super ADD, but again, I use all that for my advantage. Like none of that is that's why I'm saying I don't want to say disability, because those are my abilities.
Right.
My disability is that I hate math. Okay. Well, that's y'all's disability because I don't have to deal with it. Yeah. So, I just use, and same thing with my children, because I did homeschool for 15 years. And that first one was the one who read young, very verbal, good handwriting. I go, well, this is easy. Patting myself on the back. I got this down.
Isn't that something?
And then the next one was the one who's an engineer, very visual engineers, but not as good. He wasn't with details, got him tested at about 17, and he fell under an umbrella with a reading disability. And I remember when he went to college, he got a full ride to LSU as an engineer. And I got him accommodated. When he got that testing, he got more time on the ACT, and his score came up. In reading, he would have a score like at about 19, but in math and science, he was 32 and 33. We do ACT here, not SAT as much in Arkansas. Okay. So the ACT goes to 36. And so 32, 33, those are the highest scores in the country. But his reading was low, and it would bring the whole score down. And he was in high school then. I didn't homeschool him because he played football in high school. And I took him to a PhD and had him assessed. And she said, this is pretty typical of somebody. He had hyper ability in one area and maybe that disability, but once he got the accommodations, he brought the score up and was able to get that full ride. But when he went to LSU, I said, you can use this now in college. He had never used the accommodations. My other two kids did. They were like, I'm riding this for all it's worth, sister. He
Why
said,
not?
No, I'm embarrassed. Well, he goes, I'm embarrassed. They'll think I'm dumb. I go, do you think in a population of 30,000 students, they're thinking twice about you? No, nobody cares. And I went, clearly you're an engineering student, far from dumb. So it's right. The stigma that he had to rise above. Whereas my other two used it as part of their tool chest, using the more time, maybe note takers and different things. It depends to the degree. My youngest child was the one that we noticed did. I was homeschooling her. She was in second grade. I was sitting on the sofa. We're going back over that reading. And I used BAT, but act. I was like, come on, put it all together. And she'd say, cupcake. And I go, where did she? But she'd look at the pictures on the page. And I was like, wow, you're really good because you're convincing that she was because the thing about teaching a child to read young, act, there's a bat somewhere in the picture, right? So she did then start putting that together. So it took a minute, but as her mother, I knew in my heart, something wasn't right. I knew with her speech, something wasn't right. The way she would get words twisted, and just some other things. And so I read The Gift of Dyslexia. Is that the book? It is. And it's the big book. And I read it and wept and said, oh my gosh, I got it. But I knew I wasn't equipped. I'm good at a lot of things, but I knew I wasn't equipped. So we had to call in outside help, and that totally changed her career and path. And she's a great student now.
It's amazing. There is a very unique approach to teaching dyslexic children. And I share this. I have these free webinars once a month, and the next one's coming up. But I share about dyslexia, what it looks like for kids in their reading and their writing. And I share the unique approach of multisensory, the reading program, where you're using the visual, auditory, you're speaking, and it's hands-on. And this really works for all kids, but the dyslexic child really needs it. But there's a strategy to learning it. And some of the colleges are charging about $40,000 to send someone to college to learn how to teach it. And that just blows me away because, so I developed a reading program, step-by-step reading, and we use music, but I can train a retired teacher, a substitute teacher, a college intern. I can train them in a day. And I can offer them support because I give them like in your nutrition, there's the keys to teaching reading. And we're seeing kids make 1 to 3 year gains in only 6 weeks.
Unbelievable.
And, I use the analogy that my kids wanted me to go to CrossFit. And okay, I tried it for a week or two.
That's awful.
It wasn't for me. No. And so I had a trainer for several months before COVID. Before COVID, I had to stop that. But what really helped me start losing weight was when I cut out my white flour, cut out my sugar, the processed foods, weighed my food, had 3 meals a day. So there's those nuts and bolts that work, right? And that's what my reading program is. I had 2 masters, and that's when I learned about dyslexia, when I was earning my second master's. And so I don't think people have to go back to school and get what is like another credential. And because I'm in the practicum for Orton-Gillingham. And that's to bring, someone gave me a scholarship so I could be in this practicum, be sure that my program was taught with fidelity. And it is spot on. And I'm so excited even more because of it. So we can train people faster with dyslexic people being 1 in 5. We're not going to help all of our kids if we don't try to get this taught faster. So anyway, I wanted to ask you some of the challenges that you had getting your daughter the help in school.
Well, we couldn't find it in school. And that's why I did homeschool her till she went to the 9th grade. So I found a reading tutor. I remember my husband thinks I am, Goliath, that I could, strong. He thinks I can figure anything out. So I remember telling him, I remember calling him on the phone and said, we got a problem. I said, we have a 2nd grader who can't read. And I said, she's going to have to get some outside help. He goes, honey, you read all the books, go read a book and fix this. He was like, how much is this going to cost? I go, it's a lot. She had to meet with her for twice a week for 40 minutes. And it may have been $10,000. I mean, if I'm just doing numbers. And he said, $10,000. I said, how much is that boat you want? He went, all right, got it. So she went twice a week, and that lady really unlocked some things for her. Words were a mystery until that time. And so she was able to see that be act. But what she saw, and again, every brain is different. That teacher used little bitty cards about this big, and it was a picture of a man's mouth going the F. F was well. We lied to her all those years because we told her it was A, B, C, D, E, F, G. G doesn't make G. H doesn't make. I mean, if you look at it from her point of view.
Good point. Yeah.
And that lady said if she ever ran for office, that was going to be her entire platform. We were going to change the alphabet song to A, B, C, D, F, G. And so once my daughter saw the pictures that it was B, A, T. And then her brain remembered that. Then she sailed through and she caught up. So 2nd grade was not reading. We met with that lady about 10 months or a year. I held her back in 2nd grade because I was homeschooling her. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter to homeschoolers what grade you're in. It's just everybody asks, what grade is she in?
Yeah.
But I held her back, and all of my children needed a little more maturity before they went to college. It has not hurt them that my son too, he didn't start college. He started college at 19. I held him back because I'm their mother. I know these things. And so when she caught back up, she picked up 3 or 4 grades. So she was then in 2nd grade again, and then probably reading on a 3rd, 4th grade level. I mean, she was moving up from nothing, Dr. Cintron, nothing.
Yes.
And then moving to that, because that was her other thing was, and we still kind of tease her about these because they're funny. Now she's an adult living in Dallas and also in that health coaching school. That's why I did it, because she used it. I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds so good, because she likes learning. But hearing her say words that she would get confused, like she'd say, well, he's in the hospital. And I'd go, hospital? She'd go, well, that's what I said. So I thought it was her hearing, and it's not her hearing. It was the way her brain separated things out. And then I was like, I got it now. So we still kind of tease her about some of them, just so she, not to embarrass her, but just that how far she's come. But knowing that she still has that little girl inside of her, she still sometimes will look at a word and it takes she goes back to how she learns, because she learns differently. She uses her way to learn it. And then, words that are 4 syllables, especially, were the ones that she had, because she had to go back. We went back to that reading tutor about 5th grade when they get multisyllabic words.
Like Hangerberger?
So yeah, right. Like that one. Yeah.
Well, and it's nice to get that intervention young. And the research shows if the kids aren't reading at grade level by 4th grade, that's the beginning of 4th grade, those are the kids at risk of drop out of high school. They'll either 2/3 of those kids will either go into prison or be on welfare. And so people can't understand, how can they make 3-year gains in like 6 weeks? And that was 4 or 5 days a week. But the thing is, once they get it, once they figure it out, they catapult. It's learning what works. And so in grades 1, 2, and 3 is when, for second and third grade, is when we learn to read. And then in fourth grade, they should be reading to learn. And so we're doing our teachers at fourth grade and above such a disservice by sending them kids that don't know how to read.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah,
but
that's
some, like my daughter,
learning.
though, when she got evaluated, that's why the lady said, or the lady, I'm sorry, the lady who was our intervention specialist, she said, oh, she would have been overlooked had she been in public private school, because she said she's seeing the pictures and she goes, it would have shown up at fourth or fifth grade. And she goes, by then you are treading water to stay
Yes.
up. If you're then learning to read in fifth grade, and that lady told us, she goes, it happens all the time because some kids are overlooked because their handwriting's good and they're sitting in attention, and she didn't have any ADD or anything that would make a teacher think, well, you're at risk. She was no risks.
The little child, then was she ended up being quiet?
Yeah, she is kind of quiet. Yeah. I mean, when your mother is this, remember, I did win Most Talkative. So when your mother's Most Talkative, it's kind of hard to compete, but yeah, she is quiet and works real hard. So, but ended up getting a really good scholarship to Texas Christian University because she took those accommodations. She is a good communicator, good speaker, good writer. And she used what's in her tool chest to help equip her.
And, that's one thing I also share is college was for me. I was an academic nerd, I guess, getting two credentials, 2 masters, and then a doctorate. But it's not for everybody. But if a dyslexic person wants to go to college, we can get them accommodations. They have to be assessed, but that'll give them more time on a test, or they won't have to keep answering the same question if they had another question that was similar and they showed that they understood it. Or they could even do their tests orally.
Oh, those accommodations are lifesavers. I wish parents really would push for that. And I wish schools did have a more affordable way. Our health insurance did cover that exam because ADD was involved, and that was under the mental health umbrella for that. But it's an expensive test, but we were able to bring the cost down to maybe $1.50, maybe $150, but still for a lot of families that may be cost prohibitive. But it was the very thing, because again, she didn't look like, she could get by with things, but she would say, I really have to have more help. I'm going to need more time. I need it orally. I need someone to take notes for me. Now there was even a pen that would take the notes in college and some other things. So that really, really helps these kids.
That's great. There's a reading pen. They could hover a pen over the words and it'll read it to them.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, we do have to wrap up this interview. What would be some closing words you'd have for our audience?
Be an advocate for your child. You as a parent know your child more than anybody. And if you see something's not right, it's not a failure on your part. In fact, it's a victory that you're fighting for your child. Fight for your children.
And tell them again how to go to your podcast.
My podcast is the Lisa Fischer Said podcast, and search for it wherever you get your shows. I had Ree Drummond, the Pioneer Woman, on recently, and all of social media has blown up. Oh, she's just delightful. I met her years ago at an event, and we've kept in touch. So that was really a lot of fun. But I like talking to people just like me and you, just moms, wives, friends, just going through life and locking arms and saying, we can do this.
That's wonderful. I made some of Lee Drummond's recipes for Thanksgiving or for Easter.
Oh yeah, I did too. Oh, I do them all the time. She has a new cookbook coming out called Super Easy. So it's going to be super easy. She said, we're all going to love it.
Okay. A new plug for Lee Drummond, right?
Yeah, right.
Pioneer Woman. So audience, I want to thank you for listening in, and we'll have to have Lisa back at another time and get some more information from her. This has been really fun for us. So again, I'm Dr. Marianne Cintron with Step-by-Step Dyslexia Solutions. If what we have shared has inspired you, please visit our website, dyslexia-solutions.com, and consider making a donation to help these podcasts go forward. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye now.